Rejoice! Not only are the marionettes back, but Hugo is as well, and he comes in to totalize the HP out of them. And he got new tools at hand to do so, namely King of the Summit for his stunners and of course Dialyn. And if you haven't watched my guide on her yet, you should. But this is Hugo's time to shine, so today let's talk about his kit and how he plays, his best weapons, distress and distress sets, his combos, his main substats, teams and mindscapes, and lastly, let's also talk about his pros and cons. Welcome! I'm Rivenous and this is your complete updated guide to Hugo Vlad. A big shout out to Lin Null for providing me with footage because I don't have Hugo. Check out his channel and a link is in the description. Hugo is an ice-type burst-focused crit DPS, and by burst-focused I mean quite literally that. He does one singular instance of a few million damage and then instantly ends the enemy stun window. This mechanic is called Totalize, and to better understand how this works, let's first cover his kit. But first, LD Shop, because LD Shop is where your heart is. Or at least mine, because they pay me. LD Shop is a safe and reliable top-up site for your favorite games, such as Zenless Zone Zero, Honkai Star Rail, Withering Waves or Genshin Impact. Created by LD Player, LD Shop offers you affordable prices, even up to 30% off, through official ways and does not require any account credentials. Your server and UID are enough. Spend over $80 and you get to claim an internet membership for free every month. LD Shop is trustworthy, provides a fast delivery within minutes, and as you can see by the huge amount of positive reviews, is also safe and reliable. To make sure you can safely acquire your new favorite agent and don't have to worry about losing the ugly 50-50, go and claim your deals directly today, before it is too late. So go directly to ldshop.gg using my link in the description or pinned comment and save money today. Use my link and you will receive a 15% off and a 5% off coupon. Thank you LD Shop for sponsoring this video. Hugo is an ice-type burst-focused crit DPS, and by burst-focused I mean quite literally that. He does one singular instance of a few million damage and then instantly ends the enemy stun window. This mechanic is called Totalize, and to better understand how this works, let's first cover his kit. We will never use his dodge, dodge counter, dash attack, special, quick assist or assist follow-up, so let's skip them. For 99% of you, you will also never use his basic attacks, but I think they are interesting enough to at least cover them, and especially if your Hugo has higher investment, especially in terms of Mindscapes, you might actually do. Hugo features two types of basic attacks, with his 4-part basic attack string being called Dark Abyss Quartet, which I will refer to as basic attacks going forward, and a second type called Dark Abyss Concerto, which I will simply call basic attack follow-up. His 4th basic attack and the second part of his basic attack follow-up are considered shots, and basically all of his relevant actions will allow you to directly transition into his 4th basic attack, which then can be followed up with his basic attack follow-up. You can hold your basic attack button pressed during either his 4th basic attack or his basic attack follow-up, and he will then perform a charge shot instead. He also has this shot and charge shot mechanics written literally everywhere in his kit, and hence also it applies to his dodge counter and quick assist. Although again, we will not really use it. Regardless, I want to focus mostly on his core passive anyway, so let's talk about it. Hugo's core passive has a lot of words for telling you. If you use your ultimate or EX special while the enemy is stunned, he triggers Totalize, which does a shitload of damage, immediately ends the enemy stun window, and also instantly restores up to 25% of the enemy days bar. On top of that, if you pair him with 1 or 2 stunners, he will gain 300 or 900 flat combat attack respectively. Just to make it clear, this is either 300 or 900 and not 1200. This essentially means we always want to pair him with 2 stunners. Or do we? Yes, we do. Anyway, furthermore, he gains 14.4% crit rate from his core talents, and when using his chain attack or if he stuns an enemy, he will also gain 12% crit rate and 25% crit damage for 6 seconds. His additional core passive requires either a stun agent or a character of the same element and basically allows you to deal even more damage. And honestly, that is all you need to know about his kit. I could read you his kit word for word, but Hugo is so incredibly simple to play on a basic level that I really don't want to waste your time any further. So let's have a look at his simplified game plan. When looking at his damage distribution, we can see that basically his entire damage comes from his EX special, ultimate and chain attacks. Well, actually most of that damage is his Totalize, which we can trigger using his EX special or ultimate while an enemy is stunned, and Totalize will then deal damage depending on the type of attack used. So for example, using his EX special will then cause Totalize to deal EX special damage. And exactly because his entire kit is centered around one large burst during the enemy stun window, we have a really simple game plan. We don't use him while the enemy is not stunned, and when the enemy becomes stunned, we then use his chain attack twice, then follow up with either of his EX special or ultimate if available. And that's it. Because basically his entire damage comes again from his core, EX special, chain and ultimate, our skill priority will be core, EX special and chain into basics and assist, and lastly dodge. We can leave his basics, dodge and assist all at level 1. This effectively also means his investment on a basic level is really cheap, at least in terms of his skills. His disk drives are a little bit of a different matter, but more on that later. Since Hugo does quite literally only one thing, and that is during stun windows, he also effectively only has one actually relevant combo. We start with Hugo's chain, then cancel the chain and retrigger it using another character. Then a second chain from Hugo, and then we end the stun window using either his EX special or his ultimate. Prioritize his ultimate over his EX special for more damage. If you are playing him with Lycaon, you want to make sure either Lycaon initiates the chain or you use Lycaon to retrigger the chain attack at the very least. This is due to Lycaon providing a 35% increased stun damage multiplier when hitting an enemy during the stun window, so we want to make sure to do so. Since Lycaon, or any secondary stunner for that matter, will very likely run Protopunk, ideally we want to open the stun window with their parry into assist follow-up for optimal uptime. And that is all what you will be doing 7 to 9 times per fight, so instead let's talk about his weapons. Man, this guide is gonna be really short, isn't it? Hugo's signature Myriad Eclipse is still his best in slot, with his second best choice unsurprisingly being Heartstring Nocturne, followed by Deep Sea Visitor and Cordis Gamina. Hugo has quite a few premium weapon choices, however all of his free-to-play options are at least 20% below his signature in performance, so yeah, his signature is good, not much more to say. As a side note, since Alan is rerunning right after Hugo, Myriad Eclipse is much better for Alan than Deep Sea is for Hugo, so if you do not have Heartstring Nocturne or either of their signatures yet, but you want to invest a little bit more into them, I would recommend getting Myriad Eclipse and then use it on both Alan and Hugo. Hugo does unfortunately not really have many set choices, and his by far best choice is a 4-piece Hormone Punk, which also fits his playstyle of literally never taking the field outside of the stun window every 20-ish seconds. Another 4-piece option would be a 4-piece Puffer Electro, and while it is better with Dialyn, it still falls behind a properly played 4-piece Hormone Punk. For the 2-piece, either of Branch and Bladesong, Astral Voice, Puffer Electro, Polar Metal or Woodpecker will do. Since all of his damage is concentrated into one single hit, not critting with it is absolutely an instant restart, and because of that we want to make sure to always hover as close to 100% crit rate as possible. That also means if you are short on crit rate, Woodpecker Electro will be your best two-piece choice. Crit rate in slot 4, ice damage, attack percent or pen ratio in slot 5, and attack percent in slot 6 are his best options, and I would not recommend anything else. Because his signature gives Death Shred, I would personally not necessarily recommend pen ratio, but it is not the worst option. As per usual, choose whatever has better substats. And speaking of which, for his substats we are looking at crit rate until about 98 to 100% in combat, then attack percent and crit damage, and lastly flat pen and flat attack. Since he gains 12% crit rate from his core passive, we are looking at a maximum of 88% crit rate in the stat screen. Let's also quickly skip through the Mindscapes. His M1 provides more crit rate and crit damage for his Totalize, which is surprisingly a damage gain and also makes him easier to build. His M2 allows you to cast your EX special for a second Totalize after every ultimate, which means you will gain more EX special Totalizes per fight depending on how many ultimates you will get. Surprise, his M1 becomes better with Dialyn. His M3 and M5 exist and his M4 exists too. Unless you have access to a quick assist right before the stun window, which is mostly the case with Trigger or maybe Astra, in which case it is an okay Mindscape. His M6 is honestly pretty awesome. Not necessarily in terms of raw damage gain, it is just okay, but it does change his gameplay, or at least his gameplay options. Effectively, you can now run a 4-piece Woodpeck on him and play him on field, which is really fun. Onto his teams. So the small problem Hugo has is he does not really have a free-to-play team. Yes, in theory you could play him with Ambi or Collida and the likes, but the difference between his premium teams and, well, other teams is so massive I would straight up tell you to rather skip Hugo than to pull for him if you don't have any of his premium teams. I want to give also a special note on Pulchra and Trigger. For Pulchra specifically, she requires heavy attacks, and Hugo's EX special does not count as a heavy attack, which means, yeah, unlucky. It is even stated right in his description. For Trigger, while she doesn't require heavy attacks, they are needed for her Tartarus shots, and they make up a good portion of her day's output. Otherwise, Hugo plays well with lighter Lycon and now also Dialyn. Trigger is an option, but I would primarily recommend her at higher Mindscapes and with her signature. Otherwise, there really isn't much more to say about Hugo's teams. They are pretty limited unfortunately, at least if you are looking for a good performance. Hugo has a very unique and also very fun playstyle and is also relatively cheap to invest into, at least in regards to his skill levels. On the other hand, he requires a really good amount of crit rate substats as he wants to hit as close to 100 crit rate as possible. His teams are pretty limited to premium units, and he also does kinda not really match well into a lot of ice weak bosses. Most notably Bringer, and also to a certain degree the Marionettes, which only have a 7-second stun timer, although their stun multiplier is at least 200% instead. Additionally, most new bosses feature the Miasma shield mechanic, which quite literally prevents stuns, and for a unit that relies on getting stuns, well, that is not really great. His Mindscapes are average, and while he has other good weapon options available, most of them are premium signatures of other units, which is why I count this as a neutral. And with that, we are at the end of the video. This is probably the shortest guide I have done in a really long time, but there really isn't much more to say about Hugo. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment on your thoughts on Hugo, and join the Discord. A special thanks goes out to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. If you wish to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description. Or click the join button right below this video. And as always, I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace!